No, Billy was larger than life. He was honest, smart, streetwise, pensive, yet playful. That's why I can say without a doubt that Billy taught me how to live. After I came back from a humanitarian mission to Gaza, but instead having spent 7 days in an Israeli prison, I went on a nationwide tour to tell interested communities what had happened to me. At the Seattle airport, a supporter who has now become my friend paid me the highest compliment. She told me that I was alive. I thought long and hard about that, because honestly, much to my father's chagrin, there are so many people in our community who pass their days just marking time instead of making a difference. Billy knew that it was within our capacity to materially change our conditions if we would only do what is required. He knew that because he did that. And somehow he transmitted that faith in our fellow human beings to me, and he taught me to be free. My father also taught me how to love. I've learned from my own experiences that it's easy for us Americans to think that we can just order love and pick it up in the drive-through window. But through this journey with my father, I've learned to appreciate the African and Asian views of love, that its touch is so deep to our core as human beings that it is unquantifiable, it is undefinable, and it is what helps give meaning and depth to our core when we find it. Billy taught me love on 2 levels. He taught me the kind of love that would risk his job to challenge police brutality, that would challenge racism and discrimination, that would give away my Christmas gift of an Etch-a-Sketch the day after Christmas to a needy child in Bowen Homes. And so I learned to love my community because every action in my father's being showed me how to do that. I learned to love humanity because I saw my father grow in his own attitudes and admit that he was wrong about gays and apologize to them in 1996 when he saw their dedication to me after I was forced into a bruising legal battle just to remain in Congress. And it was only the white gay community in Atlanta that would cross the racial Maginot Line that is Candler Road out in Decatur and come into my campaign headquarters and fold letters and stuff envelopes and answer phones and do whatever was necessary to help me win re-election in a vastly redrawn district. And I did win in a hotly contested race. My father loved people. He sacrificed too much in the way of personal wants, and his family sacrificed too, because his focus wasn't only on us, it was on his beloved community too. But he has been unfairly smeared by special interests in this town who want to preserve their interests at the expense of yours. And my father was not about to sacrifice your interests. In my father, you had a protector, and I know you all know that. And so when the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and other aspects of the pro-Israel lobby in this country, including their supporters right here in Georgia, targeted me for defeat, my father came to my rescue by telling the truth. I was targeted by the pro-Israel lobby because I dared to question the Bush administration about what happened on September 11, 2001. Because I have the audacity to believe that no group of people, including Palestinians, who are the Semitic people in this discussion, by the way, should suffer as blacks in the United States have suffered. Billy McKinney called them out and let you know the truth about what was going on and who was doing it in the midst of intentionally creating confusion and campaign chaos. Washington to represent you. Only thing was that when I got attacked, Billy came to my defense and he was punished for doing so. Every bad word you read or hear in the special interest press about either one of us, just know that the powerful individuals who operate in the shadows of power, pulling the strings of your elected officials, the U.S. military, government contracts, they all want to keep things in your life exactly as they are now. And Billy McKinney understood that we need change, but that we are not going to get the deep structural kind of change we need. We cannot get that on the cheap. Billy McKinney made the kind of principled sacrifices that allow us to sleep better at night. So, Lord, what are we going to do now? Billy McKinney was all about love. And Billy McKinney loved Leola. During his illness, he would just sit and stare at my mother. And she would ask him, "What's he looking at?" And he would say, "I'm admiring how beautiful you are." Billy and Leola were the definition of love. And in these last months, they have shown me how devoid my life is of that kind of undefinable, unquantifiable love. In that regard, I have a lot of introspection to do. Billy McKinney also taught me how to cry. Over these past few months, I didn't know my life could create so many tears. I have never in my life known this kind of sadness. But Billy taught me to understand that even at the depth of my grief, I must never forget the grief of others. That mothers are crying all over this world because of U.S. policy. My father was such a strong black man. It would make me cry just to watch him endure his illness with such grace and dignity. He never complained. No matter how much discomfort my father was in, his universal response was, "It's all good." And one day at the hospital, he was so uncomfortable. He was really uncomfortable. But I heard him say out loud to himself, "It's going to be all right anyway." One day he wanted the nurse